Thanks for checking in on the State of Basketball podcast, episode 42. I'm Adam Miller, and I'm here with Jaren Will each and every week, and we are going to be bringing you the news and notes on all 11 Division I schools in the state of Indiana, because in 49 states...
Just football.
What? What do you mean, Jaren? It's just basketball, right?
Is this not... Are we not in Texas? Are we not a football state? Or a basketball state?
I think our safest bet would be like travel an hour east and just record in Ohio, because like they could probably claim they're the football state, like
in the Midwest.
In the same way that like Indiana and North Carolina can debate they're the basketball state, because North Carolina has probably the most national championships in this, for any state. What does UCLA have, like 11?
Yeah, they have 11.
Duke's got 5. North Carolina's got more than 5. So
yeah,
I guess that makes it more. So you have that debate there. So
yeah,
Ohio and Texas probably have that debate, as well.
Probably.
But I mean, we don't really listen to that North Carolina argument anyway.
We're Indiana through and through. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to screw up our intro. Oops.
I was shocked, dare I say. But we are, second time in 3 weeks that we're talking something other than Indiana college basketball. We talked about the Olympics 2 weeks ago. Obviously, last week we were on with, Purdue Fort Wayne head coach John Kaufman. Awesome discussion, awesome talk, awesome guy. If you haven't listened to that episode, please go do so
and buy into the Dons.
Yeah, we're very high on the Dons.
Special.
They have never made the NCAA tournament under any of their names. Nope. IPFW, PFW, Fort Wayne. And Jaren and I are feeling that this could be the year. So that's like our thing we're gung-ho on. That this year will be the Dons' year. Yeah.
There you go.
So we're high on them, especially after talking with Coach Kaufman. I think, we're high on them to make the NCAA tournament, to win their conference, but also just high on the amazing things that they're doing. He cares.
Program.
Yeah, he cares about the players, about the program. He cares about making people are going to be successful in life, and so we're excited to kind of sing their praises. But yeah, like Jaren said, we are talking football this week. Why? Because football's coming.
Yep,
it's coming, baby. What is it?
You can't say that, because that's a Colorado thing.
What is it? What's the Colorado thing?
Coming. That's
Dion.
It's a Dion thing. But no, football season is right around the corner. First games are this coming weekend. Really exciting stuff. This week we brought on a friend of the show, a friend of ours, and we're gonna talk college football to kind of preview the season. There's 7 football programs in Indiana. So a couple weeks ago we talked about, I think, six programs or 8 programs. Now we're talking about 7, but we wanted to make sure we touched on the football season for all of our fans that are not only fans of basketball, but fans of football as well. So Adam, who do we have joining us?
Yeah, we are, lucky to have on somebody that I've known since college. He and I, we go back to our college days, but if you may have seen him on Twitter, at Smash Hit Sports, Instagram, TikTok, you may have seen him on there. But we are joined this week by Cody of Smash Hit Sports. So let's bring him in here, Jaren.
All right.
Cody, welcome to the show. It's glad to have you on our show. We were on your show and not on your show at the same time, which doesn't make any sense, but yet it's the reality.
Yeah, the only lost podcast in Smash Hit Sports history. It's something of a lore at this point. I mean, the aura behind it is just, it's mystical, it's mythical, it's something that's lost in the ether. But it's good to talk to you, boys. The last time, all 3 of us got together was for a Purdue Fort Wayne game, and that was an absolute electric factory. So it's good to be back. It's good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's good to hopefully, I mean, if you're hearing this, then we have improved upon our situation because we have not scuffed the episode. Jaren and I will take credit for that. That was our setup. You could if you I wasn't gonna say if you could see that episode. We are recording it differently. We tried a method that was not going to work, and we tried it anyway. And until we have some more dinero in our pockets, we are going to be uh, recording guest episodes from our home wisely. So we'll promise when we come on your show, if we didn't scar you too bad, we will not lose another episode. That was a one of one. But
Yep. Yeah, you guys will definitely be back on for the college basketball season this year. I'm looking forward to it.
so obviously, Cody, you and I have known each other for a long time, but if you're listening to this, maybe you are a regular listener of our show, maybe you are a listener of Cody's show, and you decided to check this out since you saw him on here, and you're like, why is he messing with these college basketball bozos? But you are, do college sports, you do all sports really, but primarily I think your big thing I would say is kind of college football. So tell
For
the
sure.
people what Smash Hit Sports is.
Yeah, so at Smash Hit Sports, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all of those things, TikTok. Essentially, I love college sports. And the beauty of college sports is that the fans love college sports as much or more than anyone. And I know the fans of your show know that to the extreme. I mean, the state of basketball, y'all are tuning in for Purdue, IU, Purdue, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Valpo. Like the passion that college sports fans have is second to none. My goal is to bring that passion back into college sports because sometimes people just get a little too buttoned up, a little too much suit and tie, and I think that shit's boring. So I'm trying to bring the fun and the passion back into college sports because that's what it should be.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, and I think Adam and I agree. It's our show as our listeners know, we are
Listener.
as our listener knows, we are buffoons. We know what we're talking about, but we like to present it in a way that's more laid back, more casual, because we are not suits, and we don't like to be suits, nor do we want to be suits. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think just sports media nowadays is just able to be so much more fun.
Yeah.
I think it's more fun with opinions. I think it's more fun with takes, right or wrong. You can drag somebody on Twitter and then you can ask for your flowers when you have a good take. And I think it's really awesome because like now you get to see not only somebody getting happy that they hit some absurd bet where they included, you know, Valpo upsetting somebody, you get to hear somebody talk about like, did you guys catch that Drake basketball game last night? And they're like, no. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why were you not tuned into the Missouri Valley? So when you get people who just really care about, the storylines, the teams, the players, the coaches, it just makes it all better. And I think that's what pro sports lack to some degree because you can't follow them to the same regard. I would say some people would argue with me, but I think college sports are just where it's at.
Yeah, I think part of it comes down to being relatable, right? Like I will never be a professional athlete, but I was a
Hmm.
college kid once, you know?
Yeah.
Like I was
Yeah.
young and dumb and 20 years old and like I enjoyed my college football Saturdays. Like I can relate to a college kid a little bit more. So I think that's kind of part of it too. It's like I'll never be a, billionaire quarterback for the Falcons, but I was in college once and I enjoyed it. So that being said, boys, Indiana football this year. I'm ready. I'm dialed in. There's so much to talk about. It's great.
We're pairing our this is abbreviated for us. We get to go down from 11 to 7. We normally talk about 11 schools. We get to go down to 7 of them, man. So that's nice, Jaren. We don't have to talk about 11.
Whoa.
Obviously, we would like to
What do
talk
you mean we
about
don't
all
have
11,
to? Yeah.
but I mean, we can't talk about all
We
11.
can talk more about the 7
Mhm.
than we would be able to if there were 11. So we can show our praises a little bit more.
But so Cody, before we kind of get into this, because we're going to be using some information that you so nicely curated for us, um, you have a very wonderful resource. If you're into sports betting, it's definitely a resource that you definitely want to get. So tell us, because we're going to be pulling this information, straight from stuff that you and others have created and put into a nice format for people to look at. So tell people about this college football betting guide that you have.
Yeah, so this is the first year that I did this college football betting guide, and it's essentially a college football preview magazine designed for sports bettors. It's something that I thought the market kind of needed. Obviously, like there's the Phil Steele magazine, and like ESPN does a magazine every year for college football, but nothing was ever designed specifically for sports betting. But at the same time, what I don't want people to think is that this magazine is just me and all of my picks. What this magazine is it is 100+ page tool to make you a smarter football fan. It's teaching you the lines, why teams are good, what teams are good at, like how teams are great against the spread. What my goal is, my picks are in here, but my picks are always going to be free because I'm not a professional. I don't do this for a living, right? And maybe if I get to that point one day, maybe I will sell my picks. But you're going to find me on a yacht in the Bahamas before that happens. So what this is it's a tool for you to make the smartest bets that you can. And it's $20. So if you bet more than $20 at any point during this entire college football season, you should buy the guide because I can guarantee you that this guide will help you win at least one of those $20 bets. And that is I'll give you your money back if not.
That's well said. I mean, I feel like, you look at betting lines or whatever, and you just like, I don't know, that seems like such a large number or such a small number. Like, how are they not going to cover that? And then, you make the bet, and then when the result comes out, like you were incredibly wrong. And so I think having something like this is definitely helpful just to, because when you're cooking up that parlay and you're like, okay, what can I add to this? You can be like, okay, it's week 3. So is Notre Dame should they cover against this team? Should they not cover? And then you can kind of make a smarter decision, with your money and hopefully,
Yeah.
hit it big.
The way I look at it is I look at these teams and I go, okay, maybe I like IU this week, right? They're on the road at Northwestern. Is IU pretty? So you look and you see, oh, well, IU's 3-2 on the road. If they're an underdog, they're 6-3 against the spread as an underdog. This lines up perfectly. I'm going to hammer it. Or if you look at it and you're like, at home against Maryland, well, they were 0-5 against the spread at home last year, right? It's using that kind of information to just help you make winning bets. I mean, who doesn't love to win? I'm a winner. I know. Well, Adam, you're an IU fan, so I guess you don't know a ton about winning. So what that is when my score is better than you. You know what I'm saying? But no, in all seriousness, I do think it's a great tool. Like I put hundreds of hours of time and effort into this thing, and honestly, if it doesn't sell, that's fine because I know my bets are going to hit because of it, and that's all I want.
Honestly, that's a great way to put it. Like at the end of the day, you're right. Like people can decide whether they want to buy it or not. It's just they're gambling on whether they should buy it or not. Well, if they're going to gamble at all, take the risk. Take the risk because this is only going to help them, win a little bit more.
Yeah, lower your risk, and like you said, I mean, obviously you should buy this, but if you don't, then Cody, you just got some upfront work done, and then helped you make more educated bets, and then make more money than you were going to. So,
Absolutely.
So our episode, kind of how we're going to do this is we're going to talk about, we're going to start with, our power teams here, and then we're going to kind of work down and just talk about, games maybe to be aware of, kind of maybe what the projected record would be. So we're going to talk through all 7 of those, kind of talk about Indiana first, the Indiana schools first, and then we'll talk about the AP top 25, who was snubbed, what Cody thinks about these teams, because if you're a basketball person, you might not really care about the top 25 of football. So like what's right, what's wrong, and what he thinks, that fun expanded college football playoff might look like this year. So um, let's jump in. I was kind enough to you to start with your team, and probably, probably a safe bet, probably the team that'll have the best record in the state, Notre Dame. So you're a Notre Dame fan. I figured it's appropriate to start with them. So let's start with the Irish this year.
Yeah, and it's twofold, right? Not only is this the team that is projected to be the best, but I do think top to bottom they have the best roster in the state of Indiana. And it starts with transfer quarterback Riley Leonard coming in from Duke. And I think we had a transfer quarterback last year in Sam Hartman, and it went well. Riley Leonard, I think we're going to see very similar success. The defense of Notre Dame is what sets them apart. They have arguably a top 5 defense in the sport. Xavier Watts is he won the defensive award for defensive player of the year. Can't remember it off the top of my head, but he won that last year. Like, he was the best defensive player in college football, and we bring him back. A hire that is going under the radar, though, across all of college football. LSU offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock was hired from LSU, in which, I don't know if you guys know this about LSU last year. They were number 1 in points per game, and they had the Heisman winning quarterback. His offense is now in South Bend, Indiana. So that is a huge, huge get for Notre Dame. I'm very high on this team. Notre Dame typically has about a 15 to 20th most difficult schedule in the country. That's not the case this year. It's sitting at 47th among power teams. That's much easier than what we normally get. They have a game at Purdue, which should be a lot of fun for, I know it's a fun in-state rivalry there. But the big games, Florida State, USC, and then at Texas A&M to open the season is going to be scenes. I'm very, very excited for this team. I'm very high on them. I have them going 11-1. And for those of you who are, with this new college football playoff format, 11-1 is going to get you in. So I'm very high on this Irish team.
First thing, before I kind of go off of that, is I have to call myself out here, because you have your betting guide by conference very nicely laid out. I'm so basketball pilled that I was like scrolling through and I was like, okay, I don't see them in the ACC. It's like, why are they not here? And then I was like, they're independent. This is football. They're independent. But Mike, you said Mike Denbrock came from LSU.
Yeah.
Is that a trade?
Yeah,
they said that was that like a couple of years later trade after Brian Kelly got sent down there.
Yeah, well, and it's one of those things too. Mike Denbrock used to be the tight ends coach on Notre Dame's staff under Brian Kelly. And so he went down with BK originally and then decided, I guess, that he likes South Bend, Indiana more than Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I don't know the rhyme or reasoning behind it. Maybe he got a pay raise. But again, I don't know who's spending more money in college football than the SEC. But I'm glad that he's back, because truly, I think Al Golden is one of the best defensive coordinators in college football. And I think Mike Denbrock being one of the best offensive coordinators is really going to put this Irish team in a position to be successful, not just in 2024, which I think they will be, but long term. And they've been recruiting well. They've been recruiting in the state of Indiana well, and really in the Midwest, which, say what you want, I understand that the South runs college football, but there's some gritty dudes in the Midwest and the Rust Belt, and that's going to help you win football games.
So A&M, wherever you think they should be or should not be, A&M, they opened that season at A&M, and A&M's 20th in the AP top 25, and Notre Dame's 7th. So, I mean, 7th on the road at number 20, that's pretty tough.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest games week 1. And say what you will about Texas A&M. I know they've been disappointing lately, but that has nothing to do with how good their roster is. Their roster has been very good. It's been, quite frankly, deficient coaching. And they brought in Mike Elko, who he was a defensive coordinator for Texas A&M a while back, ended up leaving to be the head coach at Duke. Always had Duke overperforming. I mean, Last year's Duke Notre Dame game came down to the wire. That was a lot closer than it should have been. And it's a testament to him getting the most out of his guys. I think he's going to do that at Texas A&M. I have this team going 11-1. That one loss is that game at Texas A&M. Like that is my biggest worry. That game, I don't know. I've looked at tickets because I'm a degenerate, but they're going for over $500 a piece, like for nosebleed level seats.
Wow.
That is a stadium that holds 110,000 people. It is going to be packed to the gills on a Saturday night, the Labor Day weekend. Are you kidding me? In College Station, Texas, there might not be. There's a reason College Game Day is going there because it's going to be an insane football game, and I'm very excited for it.
You gotta. I mean, throw your name in the hat for a press pass, man. Worst they could do is say no. I will say, if you do get that press pass, it's gonna kill you inside to just sit there and watch.
Yeah.
See, and that's like when we went and watched Trine play, like that, it was everything in me to not just yell when things happened, and being on the sideline for these games. Like it would be tough to keep my composure.
How much Trine means to you, and then like how much Notre Dame at a top 20 opponent means to you is like 30-fold, right?
Yeah. If you are a Notre Dame fan this season, be ready to go through it because there are going to be a lot of good games on the schedule. There are a lot of teams that are like USC is going to be very good. Georgia Tech, a sleepy good team. Louisville, they quite frankly whooped us last year. So I'm excited for there's a lot to be excited for if you are a Notre Dame fan, but at the same time, you got to temper those expectations a little bit. I do think we are relying more on the transfer portal this year than we ever have. We have 2 wide receivers, Chris Mitchell coming from FIU, and then Bo Collins coming in from Clemson, that we're really going to have to rely on offensively. That's not typically how Notre Dame has done things in the past, but welcome to the new era of college football. So we'll see how well it all meshes. We didn't get to watch Riley Leonard in the spring game because he was hurt with his ankle still. But I know, he looks great at camp. So we'll see how it all meshes together. I'm excited for it. I think we're in for a big year of football in the state of Indiana, truly, because we'll get to it. Notre Dame ain't the only team that's going to be playing in a bowl game this year.
Okay, so go ahead, Jaren.
I would say there's 3 things I wanted to bring up about Notre Dame. One, if you are a Notre Dame fan or interested in learning more about the program, they do have a docu-series that's releasing this fall on Peacock. It's called Here Come the Irish. It's I think there's 4 release dates. I guess it's going to be more so the fall into January. So first 2 episodes, start of the season. 4 episodes will be released throughout December, then a follow-up episode in January. So I'm really excited to watch it. I've got a couple huge Notre Dame fans in my family. So I'm going to watch it just to, see what it's all about, just because it's anything behind the scenes with any kind of college sports program. Really cool to me.
It's like Hard Knocks, right? That's what it's like supposed to be, kind of like.
Yeah. Another thing I want to ask about is their offensive line. There's been a lot of chatter this week. They've got a pretty young line. I think they're starting, as of now, right, all based on camp, a true freshman, a redshirt freshman, and 3 redshirt sophomores. Is that something, fans should be concerned about at all?
Yes, this is, and I talked about this on my show, but this is the first time I think I can remember in my serious college football watching lifetime that I am legitimately concerned about Notre Dame's offensive line. And that it comes from several things. We are starting left tackle who was supposed to replace Joe Alt. There's a reason he's a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Absolute stud. The man replacing him tore his pectoral muscle. He's now out for the year, and we are looking at starting freshman Anthony Knapp. And it's between him and a graduate senior. So there is a grad student, Tosh Baker, who 6'8", 320 pounds, is a big boy. But that is what the battle looks like for the starting left tackle position. Don't know how that's going to play out. It looks like the freshman is actually winning that battle as of right now. So if all things right now were to hold, our offensive line from left to right would be freshman, sophomore, junior, 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 which is very uncharacteristic for Notre Dame. So going into Texas A&M, they have a very good defensive line. We're gonna see how this team meshes right away. But that's something to watch all season long as we go through, is how well this offensive line unit holds together.
Makes sense. Then one last thing, just I came across a video and it talks about some Notre Dame lore, I guess. And I'm curious if you're aware of this, but so Notre Dame's football field, right? Most college football fields, they've got painted end zones. They're the school colors. IU, for example, they're red. Notre Dame
stripe the end zones.
Candy stripe the end zones. Notre Dame's field, there's in each of the two end zones, there's 9 kind of diagonal lines. Oddly, those lines are 42 degrees, not 45. They're not 90. It's 42. Very odd. Do you know any of the background of the significance of why the end zones are like that, Cody?
So there's 2 reasons. It's the 1842, which is the founding of the university. I forget where the 18 degrees comes from, if that's like the latitude or longitude, but I know it's also incorporated, maybe the field's at an 18 degree tilt. So the 18 and 42 is what, this founding of the stadium. But the other thing is, all of those lines, they point one direction, and that direction is to the Golden Dome at Notre Dame. So it's kind of a cool thing that ties. I love when universities do this, kind of tie some stuff together like that. The other one that kind of jumps out of my brain is a Maction. Toledo has their rocket that is out in front of their stadium, pointed directly at the 50-yard line of Bowling Green Stadium, their rival. So
Yep.
I do love when people building these multi-million-dollar facilities are like, hey, let's put in this little quirky, weird-ass thing. So, but yeah, it's the 1842 for that, and then the lines point at Notre Dame, or the cathedral, the Golden Dome at Notre Dame.
Yep, and that was exactly what the video I talked about, or I watched, talked about, and I figured you knew, but I thought maybe I could stump you on some Notre Dame.
How many are in each end zone, Jaren?
9.
So there's 9 and 9
total.
So that'd be the 18.
Okay, so
And
there we
then
go. That's the 18.
40. Yep, and then 42 degrees, which happens to be obviously 1842, but 42 degrees also has them, pointing directly at the Golden Dome. So
It's pretty tight.
The other thing, nice little historical lore for Notre Dame this year, the old Army, like the Army style uniforms that we're going to be wearing. I'm not sure what day we're going to wear those. I'm assuming it would be at home against Florida State. But it comes from the 4 horsemen and the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, but there's the 4 horsemen running backs that played against Army. That one the one blue-gray October sky is one of the most famous written articles about college football back, I believe it's 1934, but you may have to correct me on that. So that is where the Notre Dame gray uniforms come in. At some point this season, they will wear them. They look very, very cool. But it's neat to see when schools tie that history together. Very much reminiscent of like the Houston wearing the old Houston Oilers colors that they eventually got sued for. But it's cool to see schools bring in. I love tradition. It's the best part of college sports. Yeah. Like having things like that in the college football video game. Oh, it's chills. I love it.
So no shot they wear those jerseys against Army this year?
No, because they're on the road. And that's otherwise sense. I would think like it would be awesome to wear them against Army, and maybe we wear them twice in a year. But yeah, because Army's on the road, historically Notre Dame has worn the Irish alternate uniforms at home. But
makes sense.
Would be sick.
I mean, just throwing that out there. You never know. Maybe the football program will hear us and they'll be like, wait a minute. You know what?
Give the people what they want.
Exactly.
Yep. I think they're just too dark, though, to be a road uniform, unfortunately.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So before we move on from Notre Dame, you have them going 11-1 with losing at Texas A&M. this is what, 12 teams in the playoffs this year,
Yes.
and then it moves up to 16 after this. So can they lose 2 games and make it in?
They can, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult path for them than most teams. So the issue with the 12-team playoff is the 4 byes go to the best 4 power conference champions. So obviously Notre Dame not going to be able to get a bye. However, we don't have a conference championship game. So we already have a built-in bye no matter what. What
Right.
may get us into trouble is if there is a team that has 10 wins, but a tougher conference schedule that may get them in there, right? So that
Like a
is where
Michigan,
things,
Ohio State meet in the championship game type
yeah,
type of deal.
yeah. So like for example, say you get essentially what would be a bid stealer in college basketball.
Yep.
You could have that where, let's say the worst team. The nice thing about the Big Ten, they did get rid of the divisions. However, let's say Ohio State is 12-0 undefeated and Michigan is 10-2, right? If or 9-3, whatever. Michigan wins the Big Ten championship, they get
Right.
in as the power conference champion, and then Ohio State comes in as a 12-1
Yeah.
Big Ten champion loser, right? Stuff like that could absolutely happen where that would make it tough if Notre Dame were to have 10 wins but not be a conference champion, right?
Right.
It does make it a little tough. I do think that we will see multiple 10-2 teams in. I do think there is a chance that we see a 9-3 team in the college football playoff this year, just depending on how some of these conferences fall. The SEC and the Big Ten have a lot of top dogs. They got a lot of good teams. But I think the Big 12 and the ACC don't have as much top-heavy competition. I do think there's a chance that we see like a 9-3 Missouri or a 9-3 Ole Miss sneak into the back end of the playoff.
And I think that's fun, unless it comes at the sake of Notre Dame. I think that's fun.
The thing about the college football playoff expanding, I understand that people be like, oh, well, now the regular season doesn't matter. I disagree with that full force. And the reason being is if Notre Dame were to lose that Texas A&M game week 1, their season's over in the 14 playoff. Like you might as well write it off, right?
Yep.
But now all of these games matter. So many more matchups matter late into the season. Games that wouldn't have mattered prior now have a huge significance. So
Absolutely.
like a game, if say 2 9-2 teams in Notre Dame and USC are playing in week 12, that game means everything now. Whereas in the past, that game would mean nothing. Congratulations on your, Armed Services Bowl.
Yeah.
Right? Like now, those games mean a lot to these teams. I think it's going to make for a lot more compelling football in November.
Yeah, I'm with you there because by the time the end of the season rolls around, you can know 3 of the 4 teams that are going to make it, and I think it definitely makes it more interesting. Same way that basketball does when there's more teams in. Obviously to an extent. I mean, this shouldn't expand forever, obviously, but I think this is a nice, favorable expansion. But let's move down to another team in the state of Indiana, because we're staying within the state right now. Indiana is the next team that I have here. I did this alphabetically after Notre Dame. So let's talk about Indiana. They were picked 17th in the Big Ten. There are 17 Big Ten teams, and then one more. There's 18 this year. So they've expanded to the West Coast to East Coast, and picked 17th by the coaches, I think, is where I pulled this from. I would not be happy with 17th in the Big Ten. I'll go on record as saying that.
Yeah, and you absolutely should not be. This is a team that is not only are they better than 17th on terms of on-paper production, they have much better than the 17th best head coach. They have much better than the 17th best offensive coordinator. This is a team they have a much easier schedule than the 17th the second most difficult schedule in the Big Ten. This is a team. I kept trying to go through and find losses for Indiana on this schedule. And I keep going through it and I keep having a hard time doing it. When you look at their out of conference schedule, they play FIU, Western Illinois, Charlotte. All of those very, very, very winnable games. I would be stunned if they lost any of those three. So that's 3 wins, right? We'll talk about Purdue. They ain't good. They have at Michigan State. That's a winnable game. They play Washington. I hate to be this guy who breaks news to Washington fans. I hope you enjoyed your college football playoff run because it's over. Yeah. And it is over real quick. Washington has the least amount of returning production in college football outside of North Carolina. They lost their head coach and they moved to a much more difficult conference. This Washington team is not the same Washington team. They play Nebraska at home. They play at Northwestern in what's going to be basically a backyard football field. Maryland is a beatable team. UCLA at UCLA, the first Big Ten game of their schedule. That is a very winnable game. This UCLA team could stink. I legitimately believe in this Indiana roster. And you go, well, you have to have a good team to win these types of games. Curt Cignetti is coming off of the most historic season in the history of James Madison's program. One of the most historic seasons in all of FBS where you are that good coming into FBS play. James Madison was an FCS team just a few years ago. But not only do you have that, Curt Cignetti brings in offensive coordinator Mike Shanahan. Yes, that Mike Shanahan of the Commanders and Broncos. That's a damn good offensive coordinator. You have the Shanahan system behind one of the best motivating head coaches in college sports. And then you bring in one of the best group of 5 quarterbacks in Curtis Rourke into Bloomington, Indiana, and you pair him with some unbelievable weapons on offense because now you have transfer wide receivers coming in. Indiana fans, be ready to book your tickets in December to go to a bowl game. I'm telling you right now, get your tickets ready, get your PTO in order. They will be playing in a bowl game. I believe in this Indiana team. They are damn good, and they look like it. Winning football is back.
It just feels nice to be included in the bowl talk,
Yeah.
It really does.
But yeah, I know I may have gotten ahead of myself there a little bit, but I truly think that sometimes it takes a program to show that they care.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time since pre-COVID that Indiana has shown that they have cared about their football program, and for good reason. There's a lot moving in the right direction.
I think I said it last, January, maybe. It might have even been December. I think December I said it. I've never seen so much excitement about Indiana football in December or January, whenever they announced that Cignetti was hired, right? I can't remember the last time I've seen that much excitement. And it wasn't because they were playing a bowl game last season. It's because of the potential for the future and the excitement of fans rallying behind, a program like Indiana football.
Yeah, it felt odd because it was in the middle of basketball season and everyone was talking about football. But correct me if I'm wrong, Cody, Cignetti was gonna retire. He was gonna retire, and then Indiana came in and swooped him out of retirement. That didn't happen.
I think it was one of those things where he would have been perfectly happy ending his career on a high note. And he's bounced around in college football a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He's been quite a few places. And for a school with Big Ten level money to come in and say, hey, we want you to be our program leader, not just our head coach, because there are plenty of programs in college football where the head coach does not have the most power. Texas A&M is one of those. Texas is one of those, right? Where the boosters kind of pull some strings a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana came to him and said, hey, we want you to lead this football program in a direction that makes us proud to root for it. And I think he jumped on that opportunity because he gets a clean slate. He gets to do whatever he wants. He gets to set the ground like rules and hit the ground running. I think he's really going to put and I know at his press conference, people kind of laughed at him a little bit for saying, hey, this is a program that can compete and compete in the Big Ten. But I truly believe that. There's no reason that this Indiana team could not, continually be successful in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing about him that I've seen is, winners. He's a winner and winners win. We see this all the time in college basketball where they'll pluck people from like a smaller conference, but they'll pluck people from teams that have won because when you know how to win at any level, you know how to win. I mean, Josh Schertz won a bazillion games at the Division II level, and then he came to Indiana State and he won a bazillion more games. It's like when you know how to win, you know how to win. And I think that's the biggest thing with Coach Sig at Indiana is he definitely knows how to win. Bigger stage, whatever, he knows how to win.
And another crazy thing too is we are sitting here in August and Julian Lewis, who is one of the top quarterback prospects in the country, is currently I know he's committed to USC, but 24/7 has him right now leaning to commit to Indiana. Do you know how insane of a statement that is? 6 months ago, like one of the best quarterbacks in the country, a 5-star prospect, the number 4 quarterback in the nation for the class of 2025, is potentially committing to the University of Indiana. That's nuts. But it's things. I've talked about this when it comes to Kansas. Kansas, just a handful of years ago, had 2 wins on the season, but they beat Texas. And in that game against Texas, Kobe Bryant had an interception. The quarterback was Jalen Daniels, and the running back was Devin Neal. And all 3 of those guys went off in their win against Texas. That is a program-changing win for a 2-win team that happened multiple years ago. All 3 of those guys are now on this same team for a Kansas team that is capable of winning the Big 12, has a win total of 8.5, and legitimately will make a bowl game. Changing a culture in college football is so important. And when you see that level of change and when you get the right guy like Kansas did with Lance Leipold, and I think that Indiana has done with Curt Cignetti, it can completely alter the path of a program. And it happens quicker now than it ever has because of the NIL and transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and you said it too, like 6 months ago, never would expect Indiana to be in the conversation of flipping a recruit of Julian Lewis's pedigree, but also just being in the conversation as a potential target for a player like that. 6 months ago, maybe 8 months ago, Indiana wouldn't even go after a kid like that. And that's one of the first recruits that Cignetti called. He was like, he's not here to play around. He's here to win and turn the program around. And I think that, Indiana fans have a lot to be excited about because of that.
Yeah. So 17th in the Big Ten. You're, according to your betting guide, you have them, projected to go 7-5, which is bowl eligible, which is what we want.
Yep.
Jaren and I talk about, just for Indiana to be bowl eligible every year is kind of like where we want to be. But let's talk about our next team. So Purdue is our next team that we're going to talk about, and they were picked 18th in the Big Ten. So Indiana was picked second to last. Purdue was picked dead last, and I feel like a lot of people picked Indiana last because they've been down and they have a new coach. But Purdue has a schedule I wouldn't build if I were in charge of scheduling. But I don't know. What do you think?
It is as high as I am on Indiana. The opposite is true for Purdue.
Oh no!
I think that Purdue. Not only do I think they will be and When I say this, Purdue, I understand that I'm wearing a Notre Dame shirt right now, and I just talk so glowingly of Notre Dame and Indiana, and every Purdue fan listening to this show is going to want to put my head on a spike. I say this, I have no animosity towards Purdue. I was rooting for Purdue in the national championship this year. I'm sorry y'all didn't get it done. Your win total is 4.5. I think that Purdue will be an underdog in 11 of 12 games this year. I think they will be favored in one game, and that is week 1 against Indiana State. This team is not good. Their quarterback, Hudson Card, don't have much faith in him. Yanni Karlaftis is one of the highlights of this team on defense. He's a great pass rusher, and they have a great safety. That's it. This schedule is unbelievably difficult. Not only are there out-of-conference games, Notre Dame and Oregon State, Indiana's out of conference was FIU, Charlotte, and FIU, Charlotte, and Western Illinois. Purdue's out of conference is Indiana State, Notre Dame, and Oregon State. That is absurd. So not only do you get that, but you also have to play Oregon. You have to play Ohio State. You have to play Penn State. You have to play Nebraska and Wisconsin. Like, all of these teams are projected over 8.5 wins, 8.5 wins or more. Like, that's insane. They have the 7th most difficult schedule in the country. They don't return a ton of talent. They went 4-8 last year. I don't think this is an indictment on Ryan Walters, but I don't have a ton of faith in him. This is going to be a very long year for the Boilermakers. I have them going 1-11. I have them going 0-9 in conference. I think they are not only do I think they're the worst team in the Big Ten, I think they are the worst power conference team in the country.
Wow.
Ow.
That is tough. One thing that I had seen from people is Walter's on the hot seat with this season, or do you think maybe after this season he could be on the hot seat?
I would say after this season. I think it is still a little early. This isn't a program that is going to be built in a day, right? It's going to take a little bit of time. I love their offensive coordinator, Graham Harrell. I think he does some awesome stuff offensively. I think schematically they look great. They just don't have the talent right now. And I think if the cards line up a little differently for Purdue this year, then like maybe they could have a different year. But it's just all of the things not drawing up in their favor. Even their winnable games, like Illinois is a winnable game, but it's on the road. Indiana is a winnable game, but it's on the road. Michigan State is a winnable game, but it's on the road. Nothing lines up for them this year. Nothing lines up for them. And I understand that you don't want to be a top 5 team going into Boilermaker territory, but I don't think this is that team. I would still give Ryan Walters another year. I don't think this is going to be an indictment on his coaching, and I think they will flash at times this year. Now, I predict them to go 1-11. Is it totally possible that they win 3 or 4 games? Absolutely. Absolutely. They could beat Oregon State. That's a winnable game. There's several teams on here that are winnable, but I just don't have a ton of faith in this roster right now. They had a ton of turnover. They're bottom 20 in terms of roster retention. There's a reason that they're plus 30,000 to win the Big Ten. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough slate. Now, I don't think, if you buy my guide, you'll see that I have them at a 1-11 record, but I gave them a power ranking of 61 among the 70 power conference teams. I don't think this is the worst roster, right? I think, in a neutral field, they could beat a lot of these lesser teams. They just have every card stacked up against them on the schedule. So I think they'll end up with the worst record. I do not think that means that they are truly, truly the worst team. But for the sake of getting everybody riled up, I'll have to say that, and I'll stick with it. But yeah, it's going to be a long year for the Boilermakers. But the good news is basketball.
Yeah. I kind of had the same reaction when I saw people tweeting that he was on the hot seat. I kind of thought, if this season goes I guess as expected, then you know what, maybe put him on the hot seat. But I don't think he's on the hot seat this season.
Yeah.
And you know, I think it's fair to, you know, if you predict them going 1-11, but also say that, you know, they're 61st out of the power conference teams, because that's kind of the problem with a like a smaller sample size. You only have 12 games, you know, whereas basketball is 31 games. You have, like, water kind of finds its level the more games that you play, and you just don't have that in football. So I think both of those things are fair points to say. And depending on what happens week 1, Notre Dame might avoid the top 5 team curse going into Ross-Ade Stadium. So
Yep.
you might be okay there, Cody. I was going to ask you about that.
I don't think, regardless of what happens for Notre Dame, win or lose, I don't, unless we like blow the brakes off of Texas A&M, which won't happen. I can promise you that. I don't think we'll be top 5 headed into week 1, because none of the teams above us, they all play like the School of the Blind and Deaf, the Colorado School of Miners, the Tennessee University of Pennsylvania, California, like it. They don't play nobody. So I'm not worried about that as a Notre Dame fan. I will say this. You have to show up. College football is a sport where you have to show up each and every night, because anything could happen. It's no different than college basketball. There's a reason that we get those Evansville upsets over Kentucky early in the year, right? There's a reason that wow, I'm really picking on Kentucky. There's a reason that Oakland can knock Kentucky out of the tournament, right? And Jack Golke can go nuts. All it takes is one, right? The same as in college football. All it takes is one night, one bad night, one good play call, one block punt, and your night could go dramatically differently. So anything can happen, but I feel okay as a Notre Dame fan.
Right. You know, with the statistics here, you know, if you're two spots higher in the AP top 25, then you start sweating.
Yep.
Jaren, I'll let you run this one, since it's your team.
Ball State, they currently picked 9th in the MAC. They're playing Miami week 2, which I think is huge for the program. I'm curious. This is, you know, they haven't really done a whole lot the last few years. There was some optimism, and Mike New, their head coach's first, you know, few seasons. He's a Ball State alum. You know, he was a quarterbacks coach in the NFL. Came back. I think he's done all right, but I hate seeing him, you know, Ball State being picked 9th in the MAC, right? Because there's a couple great programs in the MAC, but there's also a lot of not so great programs, in my opinion.
Yeah, and their MAC schedule lines up fairly favorable. They get the 2 best teams in the MAC, in my opinion, this year are NIU and Miami of Ohio. They get both of those games at home. So if they're going to pull off that upset, I think doing it at home is certainly possible if you're going to do it. They avoid Toledo, who I think is probably the 3rd best team in the MAC, but they have several winnable games on here. They could win against Buffalo. They should beat Kent State. And then they're out of conference. Obviously, they play at Miami, which is a big game for the program, but they also play James Madison, who's going to be a little bit down, right?
Yep.
They play Vanderbilt, which if you're going to beat a Power 5 team, Vanderbilt's probably the one to try to beat.
Yeah.
I think Ball State could look a little bit better than what they are on paper. Now, their win total is 4. I would lean over just because I do think they're a little bit better than that. But in Ball State has had a losing season in 7 of their 8 years under their current head coach, which obviously isn't what you want. And the other thing with Ball State is they have so much uncertainty at quarterback. Their quarterback that they had returned from last year entered the transfer portal, ended up not transferring and returned, but is now listed on the roster as a DB. So I don't know how that works. But yeah, I think they definitely have some winnable games on you here. They should beat Western Michigan. They could beat Buffalo. So we'll see. We'll see. I think Ball State, towards the end of the year in November could potentially be playing for a bowl game.
Sure. We like that.
We like bowl games. We definitely
do.
like bowl games. I like that they get to play both the Miamis. That's fun.
Yeah.
Of Ohio and of Florida. And we love Maction, you know. Jaren can get up for some Maction. I think you
Nothing
probably
like
watched.
nothing like a Tuesday or a Thursday night college football game watching the MAC. I remember a little anecdote. My junior year of college, right? There was a day where I watched 17 straight hours of college football.
Mhm.
It went that long because I believe it was Kent State, or it was either Kent State or Toledo, were out in Wyoming playing against a Wyoming team that was led by Josh Allen at the time. There was a storm delay in the middle of the game, and it was like a 2-hour delay or something crazy, and kept watching it because it was Maction. It was just also a great game because Josh Allen drove the field with like less than 2 minutes to play and won the game.
Jaren, it would be a shame if we had on a Tuesday night had to go down in cold, chilly November and watch Ball State take on Miami of Ohio. That would be a shame if we had to make the trip down. I would personally would hate to do that.
I would hate it. It would be miserable.
I'm in.
But no,
I'm in.
sign me up. But no, like there's just nothing like Maction. I think they're my favorite conference in football.
I think we have an issue in sports when people try to be more than what they are, and that's the beauty of the MAC. They know exactly what they are. They are fun football on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays, and whenever you want fun football, the MAC is going to give you fun football. They might be a little crazy, and it might be a little weird, and it might be a little wild, but it's going to be fun. And the MAC embraces it. They do such a good job. Their social media and their branding does a great job as well, but that's the nerd side of me. But I love what the MAC does. There's nothing like it in sports.
Yeah, and I mean we talked about at the beginning of the show, right? The storylines of college sports. The MAC, perfect example.
Yep.
You don't see the MLB or the NFL leaning into stuff like that. It's all just you just don't have that. The NL Central and the MLB, they're not doing fun stuff like that. Yeah, it's their teams all kind of stink.
Whoa, hey, chill on the NL Central, my guy.
Hey, I'm a Cubs fan. I'm allowed to say that because at one point in time, the NL Central was the best division in baseball, and now it's not. But no, the MAC is beautiful. It's I don't know anyone who's a college football fan that doesn't love the MAC to some capacity.
Yeah, no, not one single person out here is like, oh, fuck the MAC, man. Like we have the Big Ten hates the SEC hates the Big Ten, they all hate the ACC, they think the Big 12 is a bunch of softies, and everybody thought the Pac-12 was lame. Like, but nobody hates the MAC. Not one person on earth hates the MAC.
That's true. So bowl game. Cody's predicting a bowl game, potential bowl game for Ball State.
I think
That's
they
what we
could be
like.
playing to potentially be in a bowl game. I'm not going to sit here and put my.
They'll have the opportunity for an opportunity.
Correct.
Yeah. So next team we're going to talk about is Butler. They were projected 4th in the Pioneer Football League, which I was telling Cody and Jaren before we went and recorded this that I forget that this league exists because Butler, due to Brad Stevens, made it all the way to the Big East out of the Summit League. And the Big East does not exist in football, so could not carry that program to a non-existent football league. So they're in the Pioneer, projected 4th, so that's pretty nice.
If I'm not mistaken, I think is the Pioneer League a non-scholarship league? I think it might be.
That sounds correct. That
one of the few remaining, which is wild. You can make money off your name, image, and likeness, but God forbid they pay for your athletic scholarship.
They're out there operating as like a D3 program. What is going on?
Yep. I just fact checked. They are a
non-scholarship.
yeah, they are non-scholarship.
I have so much information in my brain that's
You
worth.
And
think
most
that-
of its schools have very high tuition. So it's
Yeah.
these players are playing for the love of the game.
Yeah, Butler ain't cheap. Like Butler ain't cheap.
No.
Uh,
So Drake won this conference last year. I think there's a pretty significant drop between Drake and the rest of this conference. Outside of that, though, Butler can compete. Like I think they went like 6-3 in conference last year. Davidson is pretty solid in that conference as well, but they added some pieces in the transfer portal. They got in Nick Howard, who is from Dartmouth, which I don't know if you guys know Dartmouth's mascot, but it is a keg, which is the coolest mascot ever. But they come over from Ivy League, right? He's a pretty solid player. The Ivy League is one of the best conferences in the FCS, and they bring him over from Dartmouth. They should play some smash mouth football, and if their defense holds up and they can, run the ball well, Butler could have a shot to, make the Pioneer League championship game. I don't think they'll beat Drake. I don't think anybody in this conference is beating Drake, but they should be pretty damn good.
a lot of Missouri Valley teams in here. Murray State, Drake, Valpo.
Yep.
Nice to see. I see some familiar faces here. Morehead State, so in Ohio Valley. Nice to see some familiar players.
I recognize that logo.
Oh yeah, I know this team. They play in what football league? No scholarships. That's weird. I would like to see them compete for, that championship game. But good for them. You're doing it like you said, Jaren, for the love of the game. Love of the game. Who do we have left?
Sometimes.
Yep.
We got two
Valpo and
teams.
Indiana State.
Okay.
Which I'm going to be honest, Adam, I truly thought that you ranked this or like put this list together in how good these teams were going to be, because that is how it played out.
Well, I did. I did alphabetical order, and then I was like, I need to put Valpo after Butler because they're in the same league, and then saying Valpo and Butler are in the same league hurt my brain.
Yeah.
But so I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I just know ball and I don't even know it. It's like
Yeah, you do in fact know ball.
So they were
Valpo
picked
stinks.
10th. 10th in the Pioneer Football League. I don't know who was picked 11th. Do you have a guess? Insult this team. They're not from Indiana.
It's not Presbyterian. Presbyterian would be a bit above like Prairie something. I don't know. Either way, Valpo, this team stinks. I have a buddy of mine who is going to be the athletic trainer up there. Shout out JP. But outside of that, not much to look forward to. They lost 5 games last year by less than 7 points. So they do have an opportunity to like right the ship a little bit. But their offense scored 25 touchdowns through 11 games last year. I don't know how good you guys are at math, but that's not good. So if they are going to,
it's better than Iowa.
True.
Good point. But yeah, they're going to need to finish drives if they want to win more games this season. I think at their ceiling, they are middle of the pack in terms of the Pioneer League. Their best player, Solomon Davis, wide receiver, transferred to Central Michigan. So that sucks. Yeah. And that is my entire write-up of every note that I have on Valpo football.
2 things. Can you guess Jaren's connection to Marist College? Are they the Marist College?
Yeah.
It is Marist College.
I'm going to say his brother's girlfriend played volleyball there.
That's exactly correct.
Nailed it.
Yeah, I had a brother. No, I almost played college baseball there.
Oh, very nice.
Then decided that the Northeast was probably a little bit too cold in March to play baseball, so I did not pursue that. But yeah,
instead you stayed in Muncie, Indiana. Hell yeah.
Yeah. The
took
team
in the action.
picked. So first of all, I'm pulling this from Butler's official website that has the coaches poll. Valparaiso, like I said, picked 10th on Butler's website. There's no L in that word, Valparaiso. But below them, 11th, Stetson. So that's an A-Sun team is what I affiliated with in my mind. So that's the A-Sun for basketball. But they do play Butler at Valpo. So get to play Indiana Wesleyan. So another in-state matchup. Obviously, Indiana Wesleyan is not Division I, but should win that one.
Yep. And then the Indiana State, the Sycamores. You know how I said Purdue was the worst team in the Power Five?
Mm-hmm.
Indiana State is a 37-point underdog week 1 to Purdue.
Oh my goodness.
That,
wasn't Indiana State good like 10 years ago?
I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure.
I knew some people that played at Indiana State, like
I feel like
went to high school with them, or not high school, knew them in high school, and they were like decent, pretty good.
I feel like there's a lot of. They played Indiana last year, I believe.
They opened the season against them, didn't they? They did play Indiana.
Yeah, they lost 41-7. But I don't think that I'm quickly going through their. I think they were good in like the 90s, kind of thing. Like they were.
That's when I was in high school.
Perfect.
It all matches up.
The worst.
But yeah, I don't know.
They were picked 10th in the Missouri Valley.
Yep.
I mean,
they were 1-10 last year, so it sounds about. Fun fact: they were 1-10 last year and finished 10th of 11. So there was a team worse. They will be an underdog in every game that they play this season, and they are in South Dakota State's conference, who is my preseason FCS pick for the national champion. So there's that. And that is my Indiana State football breakdown. Make Ravi. Damn, you can't even have Robbie Avila play like
I know, dude. He doesn't even go here anymore.
Brutal. My sweet prince. I'll still root for you in the Billikens, but just not as much.
Right. So, we talked about Indiana. Now let's talk about there are 49 other states out there. In 49 other states, it's just football. And that's what they say on the college football show called in Texas or something. I don't know. But let's talk about I pulled the top 25. The top 5 is Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas,
Alabama.
And
Alabama. Yes. Can't count to 5 apparently. I'm sorry.
That was going to bother me. To be honest. It's like, please say it.
Just say it. It was suspense, everyone at home. But as like a person who just kind of casually pays attention to college football, Michigan won the national championship last year. They dropped to 9th. Obviously, you've probably heard that Jim Harbaugh left for somewhere in LA.
Yes, the Chargers.
Chargers. Okay. Yeah. Whoo. I was gonna get there. I know it's not the Rams. Are they even in LA anymore? They're still in LA, right?
Yeah, they're still in LA.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. The Raiders moved.
Correct. Vegas.
Correct.
Okay. Cool. I'm getting there. But Cody, just kind of, obviously the only team that's ranked in the state of Indiana is Notre Dame at number 7. But the teams in Indiana would have to play would be like Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State,
Oregon.
Who else?
Yeah. Oregon, Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Big Ten, pretty interesting this year. Penn State is ranked at 8th. They opened the season at West Virginia. Fun fact for you boys, a top 10 team has lost on the road to an unranked opponent 3 consecutive years now. There is only one top 10 team that plays an unranked opponent week one on the
Oh,
road,
no.
and that is the Penn State Nittany Lions. So that is something to keep an eye out for. I do think that game is going to be absolutely wild in West Virginia. Morgantown should be rocking. That'll be one of the most fun games week one.
All
Michigan's
I heard, West Virginia money line.
I will be
Pound it.
throwing money on that for sure. Michigan's at 9, and I understand that people might be like shocked. They lost. They are tied with Washington for losing, I think it's 63% of their production last year.
Good Lord.
And they lost their head coach, and their conference got tougher, and their schedule got tougher. So I understand why they're at 9, still top 10. Their defense is going to be outstanding. The questions are at quarterback, Alex Orji. I don't know how many times there will be an orgy in the end zone this year. We'll see.
Hopefully one at least.
Hopefully at least once. LSU is an interesting team at 13. I think Brian Kelly's the most overrated coach in football. I had to watch him coach my team to absolute aggressive averageness for a decade. So
I was going to ask if you held that opinion
6
years ago.
Yes. I will die on that hill. I was a avid Brian Kelly hater. Even when he was at Notre Dame, I thought he was kind of a jackass, and I just wasn't a fit. Like, there were times where you'd be like, well, it's hard to recruit to Notre Dame. It's just such a difficult school to recruit to. No, it's not. No coach has ever had an issue recruiting Notre Dame, dude. Like, sorry. And then he's like, well, I couldn't spend a lot of time focusing on the game last year because I had to focus on fundraising. Brother, really? You don't think any other college football coach has to deal with that kind of stuff? Whatever. Excuses.
There's a lot of smart people who made a lot of money who went to Notre Dame, brother. Come on.
Yeah. If you are making excuses as the leader of your entire program, what do you think every person in that program underneath you is doing? It is what it is. Scrolling through, we talked about Texas A&M a little bit. USC being in the Big Ten, I think is going to be really interesting. They are a team that they could go 8-4, and I would not be surprised. They could go 11-1, and I also don't think I would be surprised. Lincoln Riley, I think gets a lot of crap for not being a good defensive coordinator. So what did he do? He went out and he got himself a good defensive coordinator. Danton Lynn, he hired from UCLA. I think that you will see an immediate improvement in this defense. They also have legitimately 4 wide receivers on that roster who will be playing in the NFL on Sundays. So Ohio State has like arguably the best wide receiver room in the country. Oregon probably too, but USC is right up there. They can put up points with anyone. And then Iowa is going to be bad on offense again. Teams that I think should be in the top 25 but aren't. Virginia Tech absolutely should be in the top 25. And then I think if you were going to put a group of 5 team up here, I think you got to put in Memphis. I know people want Liberty.
Interesting.
Out of 133 power conference teams last year, Liberty had the 133rd most difficult schedule. They played nobody. It was a cupcake fraud. They played Bishop Sycamore. Like, it is the biggest, most fraudulent, like, Cotton Bowl appearance I've ever seen a team have. They will not be anywhere near that good this year. They do have a great quarterback, though. He'll be fun. I think there are some teams that definitely could drop out of here. I think there are teams that could jump in. I think Nebraska could jump in and be ranked. I think there's a potential that Rutgers could be ranked at some point this year. Just keep that in your little tickler file in the back.
Wow.
Yeah, they should be pretty decent. And to the one person in the AP poll who voted Colorado in the AP Top 25, give me your credentials because you don't deserve them.
I'm actually going to be in Boulder the day after they open the season. I was like, I'm going to be there. I'm flying in on Friday. And I was like, wait, there's got to be a football game Thursday.
Yep.
Dang.
Yep. Tough.
Notre Dame 7. Like it, love it, hate it.
I think it's very appropriately ranked. I understand why people get upset about top 25s because you put things exactly in a very specific order. Yeah. But in terms of how I would tier these teams, I think Georgia and Ohio State are the first tier. I think Oregon, Texas, Alabama is that second tier. And then I think that third tier would be Ole Miss, Notre Dame. I would actually put Missouri up there. above Penn State and Michigan, and then possibly Utah. But I think that's a perfectly acceptable spot for Notre Dame. I expect them to end in the top 10 this year. I don't expect them to ever really fall out too hard and fast. Even if they do lose to Texas A&M week 1, they'll drop to 15, 16, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think they'll be fine. I truly, I'm very invested in the top 25 this year because I think it's going to be a much better indicator of what the college football playoff is going to look like. Because before, the playoff would be your top 4 teams and you're pretty much set in stone. Yeah. Whereas this year, the seeing teams move up and down it is going to matter because what teams are expected to be versus what they are at the end of the season is going to matter even for the teams that aren't in, right? Like if Notre Dame beats Texas A&M and then Texas A&M ends up 5-7, that drastically changes how people look at Notre Dame because now they only have 1 ranked win on their schedule, right? So it's more important this year than it ever has been because teams are going to be so you moved the bubble down, right? You moved it down from 4 to 12, and now there are going to be more teams that think they have a chance at the playoff than ever before. I was listening to a podcast the other day where they think anywhere between 30 to 40 teams think that they can make the college football playoff. And to be honest, they're probably right. So,
yeah, I was going to throw out a number because like when you have 4 teams in, last year you're talking 5 teams, maybe 6 that were in the conversation. And, with 12, it's like you can be talking about 16 to 20 teams.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes down to like that last game of the season, that last game of the regular season, that last game, the conference championship game, like you were talking about a 9-3 team coming in, winning their conference championship. Like that changes so much. And so I'm here for the bubble talk in football because the bubble has expanded and I think it's going to be a ton of fun because like last year, you knew who was going to be in. Like if you're, who even was it last year? Was that Florida? That wasn't Florida State. It was
Alabama, Texas, Washington, Michigan.
Yeah. And then it was like, well, who would you have left out? It's like, I don't know. None of them. Like,
fun fact, they're all really good.
Yeah. That was right. I mean, that's just the side effect of having 4 teams. So I think 12 is going to be really nice, but
I'm excited for college football bracketologist.
Yes,
that'll be a job now. It's exciting.
You should put out a bracketology every week. All right, I got my 12 teams. All right, these teams are on the bubble. Yeah, these teams are the first 2 out. The next 2
I will
out.
do that. I will do. So 12 teams. I should probably do should I do first 4 out or first 2 out? First 2 out.
Make it 2. Okay. First 2 out. Next 2. Last 2 in. First 2 out.
First
next
2 out. Yep. Love that. Okay. I absolutely will be doing that this year.
You'll start a thing. Everyone's going to be doing it. But like week 1, I mean, what do I see? Number 1 Georgia versus number 14 Clemson.
Yep.
Should be a great game. We talked about number 7 Notre Dame and number 20 Texas A&M. Number 8 Penn State at West Virginia. You said that one's one to circle. Other than that, I mean, I don't really see LSU USC.
So, LSU USC will be a good one. Some other games to circle on the schedule. That Thursday night, North Dakota State Colorado game. Colorado has never seen a team like North Dakota State. They're going to run the I formation, and they're going to fake 2 handoffs before they run power with their quarterback, and they are going to beat the piss out of them. It's going to be so much fun. So that game week 1 is going to be must-watch television. Miami and Florida play week 1. That will be must-watch television. That's a rivalry game that'll be great. And then Oklahoma State, South Dakota State. This South Dakota State team, I'm telling you, they are my favorites to win the national title in the FCS. I think there's a legitimate shot that they could upset a ranked Oklahoma State team. Could you imagine, like, when's the last time that we had an FCS school upset a ranked opponent? App State, Michigan? Like,
probably, yeah.
It would be scenes
Give
in
it to me.
Stillwater. So I can't wait.
Give it to me. If I show up in Boulder and the city is on fire, I'm going to be so mad. So I need them. I need them to win that game.
They'll be burning something, but who knows what.
Anything stick out to you, Jaren? Anything you're excited for?
Well, I was gonna say the Oklahoma State, South Dakota State game, but
Mhm.
Cody beat me to it because I think that'll be fun.
Yep.
That's like the equivalent of Oakland beating Kentucky, right? Like that's
Yeah.
absolutely going to be electric. There's a couple MAC games, some action in week 1 that are like Akron at Ohio State. Obviously, Ohio State will win that, but still, some action.
I
and I love it.
I like that game for the same reason that I like the Purdue Indiana State game to open this season, because opening with like obviously you want great games, but like opening with an in-state team, I think is just good for the state. It's good for the sport.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I like to see that they're doing that there.
Yeah, but that's
I
really
agree.
about it. Are there any? So obviously we talked about the top 25. We talked about South Dakota State from an FCS perspective. Are there any other teams that you're really high on that you think our listeners should maybe give a look to?
If I had to stake my wagon behind 2 teams this year, the 2 teams that I would pick would be the Missouri Tigers. I think that they are going to make the college football playoff. They're returning Brady Cook, one of the best quarterbacks in the sport. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. They play a fairly easy schedule in terms of the SEC. I think their game early in the season against Tennessee is going to be monumental for that program. They bring back Luther Burden, who in my mind is undoubtedly the best wide receiver in college football. They are going to be very, very fun to watch, and they're going to be very good. The other team that I will hitch my wagon to, Virginia Tech. They are the number 1 team in terms of returning production. They have the 65th easiest schedule of the 70 power conference teams. They return all 11 starters on defense. They have a potential Heisman candidate in Kyron Drones at quarterback. This is a team that is going to win a lot of football games in a conference that isn't that good. There's no reason that we could not see Virginia Tech playing in an ACC title game this year. I'm telling you, They are that good. They are that fun to watch. Blacksburg, the first Enter Sandman of the year, is going to hit. It's going to inject that into my veins right now. I need it. They're going to play Clemson at home in Blacksburg on a Saturday night, 7 p.m. kickoff. That game is going to get me all sorts of ways. I cannot wait for Virginia Tech football. They're going to be a lot of fun.
I like that. I think my, unrelated but related, the first dynasty season I played in college football 25, I'm pretty sure Virginia Tech's quarterback won the Heisman. Pretty sure. So
it's a sign. It's a sign.
Just throwing that out there into the ether,
Yep.
Who, while we're on the topic of Heisman, I'm not going to ask for your Heisman pick. Who's your best value Heisman pick?
Ooh, if I had to pick best value, the problem with some of these guys is when you go to the big names, like they are exactly who you think they're going to be. There's nothing really like surprising about them. The other thing that I hate doing when I bet on the Heisman is I hate betting on players who I think potentially could split votes on their own team. So a lot of people are going to say, well, there is, Dylan Gabriel and Evan Stewart, but like they're not really splitting votes. But like Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson, they absolutely are going to split votes, right? Like they played the same position for the same team. It was like Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards last year, both great running backs for Michigan, but they were never going to separate themselves. My least favorite is Will Howard. All 8 seasons that Chip Kelly was the head coach for the Oregon Ducks, the Oregon Ducks led the Pac-12 in rushing. And every year that Chip Kelly was at UCLA, UCLA was first or second in the Pac-12 in rushing. They are going to run and they have 2 of the best running backs in college football. Guess what Ohio State's going to do a lot of? They're going to run the football. They are going to run the hell out of the football. For that reason, I'm out on Will Howard. So if I had to give a best value pick, absolute best value, I would lean Brady Cook plus 3,500. I think is pretty solid odds. He is the quarterback for Missouri. You know that I'm very high on him. But I also think that Avery Johnson at plus 2,500 gives you pretty decent odds as well. I think Kansas State could win the Big 12. If they do that, it's going to be on the back of Avery Johnson. I have Kansas State going 11-1. I have them winning their conference, and I have them getting a bye in the college football playoff. If you can do that for one of these teams, I think you're going to have a chance to make the Heisman conversation at plus 2,500. I think that's a solid bet. Now, where I'm putting my money on Dylan Gabriel, because I do think if I had to pick, I think he's going to win it. And then if I had to bet on the other awards, Tatiora McMillan plus 900 to win the Blitnikoff. I love that team is going to throw the ball a million times a game at Arizona. He was outstanding last year. I think he's going to put up some video game numbers. So those are my bets that you didn't ask for, but I'm going to give you anyway.
No, I mean that's exactly what I was looking for. Plus 3,500. I mean, when you hear that, like that's nice.
It's a dart, but if I were to say, hey, the quarterback of the team that leads Missouri to the SEC championship game, he's probably going to get, I can tell you right now, he'd be a finalist if he did that.
Yeah.
So
throwing for a trillion yards, right?
Yeah.
I like those picks. Well, who's the favorite right now? Is it
Dylan Gabriel is the favorite. Yep.
Okay.
Dylan Gabriel, Carson Beck, the quarterback of Georgia, and Quinn Ewers, the quarterback of Texas, are the three favorites at the moment.
Makes sense.
I did not know that about Ohio State, that they're going to be running the ball a lot this year, so that's good intel. They
are a team. I'm going to set it and forget it every Saturday. I'm going to take the under because they are going to run the football. They are going to wind the clock, and I think they have the best defense in the country. I'm gonna bet the under every Saturday.
Be right, 10 out of 12 times or something.
Yep, I took a USC in the over last year, and it hit damn near every time. And I took Iowa in the under last year, and it hit damn near every time. Sometimes the answer is staring you right in the face, boys. This doesn't have to be complicated.
Just keep playing the hits.
Yep.
And this is all outlined in your guide.
Absolutely.
Linked on your Instagram.
Best deal of the offseason.
Yeah. Check that out. Check Cody out if you're not, following him on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you can find him. Please do so. He's a good friend of mine. We go back to the college days, and it's nice to see somebody talking college football as well as he does, and putting something out there as a resource for you to make more educated bets, make more fun. I mean, when you make more money, you have more fun. So True. That's just how it works. But I mean, I don't know. I'm excited for basketball, but you got me excited for football. I mean, I'm pumped.
That is all I try to do is spread the love of the game. So, but we absolutely will be hitting up some college basketball games again this year, and we'll get you on the pod for sure come hoop season. I'm looking forward to it, boys.
We'll make sure to scuff our audio for you.
Absolutely.
Have another
Add to the
legendary
lore.
One.
Yep.
Jaren's just gonna hit delete on this when we're done here, so that it can
I
just be
still would
a
have had a
running
good time.
bit.
I don't know. The delete button is right next to the pause button, so
It'd be so tragic.
It could happen.
And Jaren's out there grinding, day in and day out as a football coach now.
Hey,
you win the national championship yet, Jaren?
Couple times. I won with Ball State in I think year 3 under the program. I was as offensive coordinator, but now as head coach, I am a game away. My next game is the national championship with UCLA. So
let's go. We fly. Chirp chirp. Chirp chirp is so much better than we fly. Who made that decision? That's the worst that might be the worst marketing. Actually, Valpo going from the Crusaders to the Beacons might be the worst marketing decision in the history of Indiana sports. But the second worst is going from Chirp Chirp to We Fly. It
They
just
still
doesn't
say
roll off
chirp
the
chirp.
tongue.
Chirp,
Yeah,
chirp,
good.
chirp's still a thing. But yeah, it's the marketing slogan of We Fly. Yeah, it's dumb. And the entire
Trying going to We Are Thunderous instead of It's a Trying Thing. It's a Trying Thing is way better.
The memes made It's a Trying Thing so good. But I will raise you Taylor University going to Life to the Full. What does that even mean?
Not fullest.
No,
just
Life
full?
to the Full. It's on their
Oh my
billboard.
God, that
Like
makes
every
me
time
wanna
I
puke.
drive south, it's on their billboard. Taylor, Life to the Full. And I thought We Fly was going to be the worst. And then I saw
I'm
Life
boycotting
to
the
Full.
Silent Night game. I'm boycotting the Silent Night game.
I gotta
We
know.
need to get tickets to that, boys. We need to figure out how to get into that stadium.
We can go. It's like what, an hour away?
Yeah.
We can do it.
We
should
need
definitely
to,
go.
We need to.
I think it's like the second weekend. It's right before finals, so
yeah, it's in December.
My favorite thing about the Silent Night game is that they schedule the easiest game possible to make sure that they do it. Yeah, let's definitely make that happen. But yeah, Life to the Full. I mean, come on.
Gross.
Come on. At least IU, went with Never Daunted. Like, that's fine. IU athletics, I should say.
Yeah. But yeah.
I don't know.
All right.
Anything else? Anything else you got, Cody? Jaren?
That's all I've got.
Yeah, nothing.
All right. Cody, thanks for coming on. It was a ton of fun. I hope that you can get into that Notre Dame game week 1 without spending $1 trillion approximately. But we'll be rooting for the Irish for sure. I'm not a what do they call them? Reversible jacket fan.
Oh
but,
yeah, the IU basketball and Notre Dame football fans, the worst.
But if I was, I would have the buy of saying that my dad grew up a Notre Dame fan and then he became an Indiana fan when he went there. But it was a ton of fun. Love talking ball, a different shaped one this time, but love talking ball with you, man. We'll have to do it again sometime. So thanks, man.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Cody.
So obviously I'm looking forward to basketball more than anything. I mean, basketball is really the thing that, like, that's the sport that, I look forward to all year round, but I've been excited about certain aspects of football. Indiana football has got me excited. Purdue football, I want to see them upset some people this year. I think Notre Dame's going to be good, but Cody just got me excited for football in general.
Oh yeah, he's got that ability to have that effect on people.
Mm-hmm. He's he knows ball, a different ball than we normally talk about, but he knows ball, and like there's more names for sure to know in football, because you have to pay attention to offensive coordinators a lot and defensive coordinators in addition to head coaches. So like in basketball, you can just kind of know the head coaches and be okay. But college football, there's a lot to know. Less teams, so maybe it balances out. I don't know, but I'm excited. We're gonna get down to probably an Indiana game.
Definitely.
I would say definitely an Indiana game.
I'm really excited about this Tuesday night Ball State Miami game that Cody threw out there.
That would be a lot of fun.
Wasn't on my radar to actually go, but I might have to make the trip because Maction is I love it. It almost brings a tear to my eye how amazing Maction is.
That could be one more game that you made it to than probably while you were a student.
Hey, I tailgated every game.
Okay, that would be one more time you made it into the stadium.
There you go. Yeah.
As a student.
But no, I'm excited. It's college sports being back, I think, gets me excited. Knowing that football is right around the corner makes me know that basketball is right around the other corner. So we're getting close, and that really gets the blood pumping,
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good season. I would like to see 2 bowl games for Indiana teams. 3 would be incredible,
Yep.
but we'll see. I'm expecting Notre Dame in the college football playoff. I want to see them upset A&M week 1.
Yeah.
That's number 1. I know they're not probably going to be top 5, but if I'm Notre Dame, I'm more than a little nervous because
Yep.
losing at Purdue can sink your season for
Oh, yeah.
sure, especially if
Oh, yeah.
Cody has them projected 1-11. So you cannot that is definitely a can't lose.
Yep.
That is a
Yeah,
can't
for
lose.
sure.
So, I don't know. We'll get down to an IU game together. It's funny because our IU games that we go to still revolve around IU basketball. They still the crowd that we roll with is IU basketball related, but we're there having fun and we're going to be supporting the Hoosiers. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, anything else before we get out of here?
just a yawn. Nope, nothing else. Nothing else. I mean, just pumped. And next week we don't have anything specific lined up, but it'll be Labor Day. Is that the holiday? That's what's coming up. This is
Yes.
embarrassing. I get Labor Day, Memorial Day confused all the time.
Labor Day
Labor Day is in September.
is in September.
It's
Yes.
because it's like Memorial Day to Labor Day. But like the sports I care about are like Labor Day to Memorial Day.
Well, sports you care about are like Thanksgiving,
Veterans
or
Day
Halloween,
to
yeah,
Veterans Day to
Easter,
yeah,
thereabout.
Veterans Day to the Masters.
Yep,
That's
holidays.
a holiday.
Makes sense.
But yeah, so we will be off next week, and I mean, we're kind of undecided here. If we get an interview lined up, we'll come back with an interview next the week after Labor Day, whatever day
Mhm.
that is, like the 9th or 10th or
That
whatever.
would be the 9th. Yep.
If we don't have an episode that day, we did not get an interview. So I'm not even gonna like tease who that could be because we've got some people that
We're
were
cooking up a couple things,
yeah,
but
nothing's
we'll
set in stone
definitely
yet. We don't have
yep.
anything concrete.
Always
But
check our social media. We'll always post about whenever we've got an episode coming up. So we might take a couple weeks off, but we also might only take a week off for the holiday. So we'll see.
mhm.
But the clock is showing quadruple zeros, so it's time for us to get out of here. Thanks for checking into the State of Basketball podcast. We will not see you next week.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, in 49 states,
It's just football.